This lens is worth its weight. Maybe not in gold, but it's definitely one we almost never leave behind. If you know Mark and I, you know we love compact, lightweight gear, things that we can take into the mountains without it slowing us down. But this is one of the heavier lenses that we own and still bring anyway, because of what it can do. I'm Brenda from the Bergreens, and in this video, I'm going to walk through what makes the 70-200 so powerful. From the focal length range and the fixed aperture, to the compression and subject isolation it creates. I'll also break down the difference between the f2.8 and f4 versions to help you decide which one actually makes sense for how you shoot. And I'll share simple composition tips that will make your photos look more intentional and professional. I am talking about this from a full frame perspective, but the same ideas still apply no matter what you're shooting on. We've also been working really hard on a free focal length field guide. So if you want to go deeper into how to use lenses like this, you can grab that in the description below. So first, why the 70-200 is so special? There are 3 things this lens does really well. First, it simplifies your frame. At longer focal lengths, the background fades away and your subject becomes the focus. Second, compression. It brings the background closer and makes the scene feel more layered and connected. And as you can imagine, we love this for making mountains look grand. And third, distance. You can step back and still capture really meaningful moments without interrupting them. And that's something I've relied a lot on for weddings and outdoor shoots. So what is a 70-200? Before we get into how to use this lens, it helps to understand where it fits in compared to the other focal lengths. So if you're shooting with something wider, like a 35 or 50, those lenses tend to show more of the environment. They tell more of the story around your subject. The 70-200 does the opposite. It simplifies your scene. It pulls your subject forward and it removes distraction. Compared to something like an 85 prime, the look can be similar, but the 70-200 gives you more flexibility. You can go tighter, looser, and adjust quickly without changing lenses. And if you go longer, like a 100-400, you get even more reach and compression, but you lose some flexibility and low light performance. So the 70-200 really sits right in the middle. It's a balance between flexibility, subject isolation, and reach, which is why so many photographers consider it a workhorse lens. And part of what makes it so versatile is that you get all of that across the entire zoom range without your exposure changing. That fixed aperture is something I really value, especially when I'm shooting in changing light or working quickly. So, shoot at 70 or 200? Let's talk about choosing your focal length. So speaking of that zoom range, let's talk about the challenge of using zoom lenses. It's really easy to get in the bad/lazy habit of standing in one place and adjusting the frame by just spinning the zoom ring. The good news is that the difference between 70-200 is pretty noticeable, but it's not actually so big that this lens encourages that habit too much. I found that you still really do need to move around to get interesting compositions. So here's the key. Choose your focal length first, then move. So if I want that compressed, layered look, I'll go to 200 and then I'll adjust my position until it feels right. And if I want a more flattering portrait, I might choose something closer to 85 and then adjust myself accordingly. So that small shift makes a big difference in how intentional your photos look, and more importantly, helps you develop an intentional shooting style. So let's talk about choosing your lens. If you're deciding between different versions of this lens, the question is actually, should you get the f4 or the f2.8? So the f2.8 gives you a little more light and slightly more background blur, but the f4 version is lighter, smaller, and easier to carry, not to mention less expensive. Honestly, for a lot of our outdoor work, f4 still gives you really beautiful results. So it really comes down to how and where you like to shoot, as well as what other lenses are in your kit. For me, the bokeh is totally sufficient with the f4, especially since I'm often using this lens for compression, and sometimes I'm even stopping down to keep the mountains a little crisper. If I really want more background blur, or better low light, I'll probably grab a prime like my 50 or my 85. I actually have a full video on f1.8 versus 2.8 where I break down how different aperture affects both bokeh and low light performance. But my point is, I'm not really expecting this lens to do everything. For me, it's just one part of a system. And this is where it gets interesting. For the price of a 70-200 f2.8, you could have the 70-200 f4 and a 50 1.8 and an 85 1.8, which means you're not actually losing low light or background blur. You're just getting it in a different way. Now, I guess that's before you factor in the cost of the camera bag, which reminds me, hit subscribe because Mark's doing a whole video on bags and budgets next. So if you hate swapping lenses, or if you're shooting something fast-paced like wedding, the f2.8 might make more sense. But if you care about weight, flexibility, and cost, this setup is really hard to beat. So I think it's clear which one I prefer, but let me know in the comments, do you prefer one premium lens or a larger kit? And if the 70-200 isn't the right fit, so here are 3 directions you could go instead. If you want something lighter and more compact, a couple of primes can actually give you similar results with even better low light and background blur. You might look at the 85 or the 135. Or if you want more reach, you might look at that 100-400. And if you like the idea of a 2.8 but don't want to spend $3,000, there are third-party options that get you really close for a lot less. So there's not really a right answer here, just the setup that fits how you like to shoot. So now that you understand what this lens does, let's talk about how to actually use it. Technique number 1 that we're going to talk about is subject isolation. So this is probably the biggest strength of this lens. If you want that soft background and clean subject separation, bring your subject closer to you and keep the background further away. That distance between them is what creates that look that we're talking about. So even at f4, you can get really beautiful background blur if your positioning is correct. Technique number 2 is compression. So compression is one of the reasons that people, and by people I mean me, love this lens. To really see it, you want to step back, zoom in, and line up your subject with your background. So as I mentioned earlier, this works especially well in the mountains. You can take something that feels far away and make it feel like it's right behind your subject. There are times for a wide angle, vast landscape like this, shot with a 16-35. But there are times for subject isolation and compression like this shot with a 70-200. Let's talk about technique number 3, sharpness and stability. So one thing to be aware of, at these longer focal lengths, even small movements show up. So your shutter speed matters. The simple rule is to keep it at least 1 over your focal length. So if you're at 200 millimeters, aim for 1 over 200 or faster. Modern cameras have really good stabilization and autofocus now, which helps a lot, but it's still something to pay attention to, especially if your subject is moving. And I'll be honest, this is something I screw up sometimes, especially if I'm in a rush and I'm shooting silent shutter and I can't hear the click. Motion blur, camera shake, all of it is magnified with this lens, so be aware. Technique number 4, layers and foreground. So one thing I love doing with this lens is shooting through elements, branches, people, textures. At long focal lengths, those foreground elements just soften and blur in a really natural way. It adds depth without feeling distracting. Our next technique is sun flare. So I also happen to love how the 70-200 handles light, especially shooting into the sun and especially at sunset. There are different types of lens flare, but what I'm talking about, what I really love with this 70-200 is that veiling glow that's like a wash across the image. Not really the circles or streaks that people sometimes think of sun flare. The 70-200 tends to render that veiling look in a really clean, natural way that's somewhat controllable. And it's not as chaotic and it feels directional. Makes a very beautiful image. And let's talk about technique number 6, tiny subject. Often we think that with telephoto lenses, we want to always isolate the subject by making them big in the frame. We shoot headshots, 3/4 length portraits. But what I love doing is breaking those rules. I love to get far away and shoot more of an environmental portrait with my 70-200. It makes your subject feel small in a big environment, but still isolated, and you get that compression. It has a different quality than an environmental portrait shot with a wide angle because of the compression and subject isolation, as you can see in these examples. Let's talk about some real world uses. This is one of the lenses I reach for when I want a little more distance and simplicity. The 70-200 focal length range is a nice balance between being able to get compression and subject isolation while still having a reasonable working distance. And it's a longer lens that maintains a consistent aperture, which I really appreciate. In weddings, I use this lens when I want to capture moments without stepping in and being super close, or when I can't get close during a ceremony for whatever reason. And I almost always grab it before stepping outside for sunset portraits. When it comes to portraits, I use the 70-200 when I want a more flattering perspective, but the flexibility of the zoom range. The 85 is super flattering, but I can get more variety in a session with the 70-200. And when it comes to mountains, as you might guess, I love shooting the 70-200 when I want to bring those layers together and show the mountains in a different way. For everyday moments when the scene feels busy and I want to simplify it, I'll use the 70-200. It's a very versatile lens, but since it's a little bigger than some of my other lenses, there's sometimes a debate onto whether we take it on an outing. If it's a job for a client, the answer is almost always yes, we're taking it. But if it's just our family day, we might skip it. The more you use the 70-200, the more you start to notice. It's not just about getting closer, it's about being more intentional with what you include in the frame. And once you start seeing that, it changes how you shoot. So if you're deciding between lenses, I'll link a few helpful videos below alongside those affiliate links that help support the channel. And I'll see you in the next video.